the collaboration is a really powerful thing. Now, what this allows you to do is obviously keep notes and track, meetings, things like that with, I guess, people both inside the business and outside the business, which is obviously more efficient than, for example, taking meeting notes in a Word document and then emailing copies of those to one another. Okay. So I've just flicked back over to the desktop version here, and I can actually see all those changes have now been reflected. Now, what I've done here over on the right-hand side, I've just, and again, I am in the desktop version here, and I've just right-clicked on this page, and I've clicked on the version history. So what that allows me to do is actually go back in time and see what changes were made and by whom, which can be useful if you want to track, I guess, who's done what on a particular page, or if, for example, you accidentally wiped it out, you can actually roll back and get the previous version, which is quite helpful. It doesn't happen very often, but good to know it's there. Okay. Now, the next thing, so that's the collaboration part. It's worth covering off quickly too that OneNote's notebooks can be stored anywhere, but generally speaking, they're stored in OneDrive. So when we log into the Office 365 portal, if we click on the app launcher, you'll see that there's a OneNote tile already there for you. So if I click on that, that's going to take me to my OneNote notebook, which Microsoft have already set up for me. I'll just give that a second to load. Oh, in fact, it's actually found all the notebooks I've got access to. But this one here looks like my personal one. Nope. Now, when you log in, if you haven't used OneNote extensively, you should only see the one notebook, and it's probably this one. And it should look something like this. Basically an introductory page with a how to get started on OneNote. So if you haven't already started using OneNote, I would recommend that's the place to get started. Now what you can do if you want to have multiple notebooks, which I think you'll find over time you will want to start to build out your notebook collection, you can actually add new ones, and typically where you would put that is in OneDrive. So if we go to OneDrive, I've actually created a folder in OneDrive for notebooks. I can then click on New. OneNote notebook. We'll give it a name. And click on Create. And away we go. So I've got a brand new notebook. It's saved in OneDrive, which means it's in the cloud. And of course, being in the cloud, I can access it from anywhere. So whether that's in a web browser or if I've got the OneNote app installed on my phone, I can access it from there too. There are obviously OneNote apps for iOS and Android, so I would strongly encourage you, if you are planning to use OneNote or you already use OneNote and you haven't got those apps, definitely jump on in the App Store and download them, and you can get up and running really quickly. So now that I've created this OneNote, again, I can share it out if I want to, or I can just keep it for my own personal use. It doesn't really matter how I do it, but if I do want to share it, it's just a matter of clicking on the share button up in the corner, and then I can invite the people I want to have access. Now, whether they can have read-only or actually edit access, that's up to me, or I can actually just create a link and allow that to be publicly accessible. So that what that means is that anyone with a link doesn't need to log in. They just click on the link and they're taken in, provided I choose one of these no sign-in required options. Now, if I wanted to open that in the desktop,
There's a question.
Sorry, I've got a question from Steve. Okay, yep. All right, so Steve, that is a little bit confusing. So just I guess for the sake of everyone else, you might have noticed, particularly, I think if you've got Windows 10, you'll notice that you've got OneNote and you've also got OneNote 2016. It's not working. But essentially the difference is this: OneNote 2016 is the full version of OneNote that comes with Office 2016. OneNote, which is down here, just OneNote, it's a slightly brighter purple color. This is the Windows 10 app. So Windows 10 apps, if you don't know, they're the apps that you install from the Microsoft Store. And they run in app mode, which is different to your traditional programs. Now, the Windows 10 app is actually free, so even if you don't have Office 2016, you can get that Windows 10 app and you start using OneNote free of charge. Now, it is a little bit less feature rich than the full client, and I think that's done intentionally, but you can still use it to do just about anything you need to get done. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so okay, so sharing. Back to where I was. So yeah, I can obviously share that notebook using the public link if I want to. I don't have to. I can just keep it to myself, and away I go. So now again, this is open in the browser. If I wanted to open in the desktop, I would just click here. It says open in desktop up the top. So Des, to answer your question, they will appear as guest contributor if they've been given a public link that does not require a sign-in, because obviously it won't know who they are. However, if you require them to sign in, and they can do that either using a Microsoft account or an Office 365 account, then it will let you know who they are. Okay, so now it's open in my desktop version of OneNote, and I can continue to use it the same way I would in the browser, vice versa. All right, so I guess that's a general overview of what it is, where it gets stored. So you can store it in OneDrive. You can also share it in, you can actually store it, in SharePoint if you're using SharePoint, and then obviously in SharePoint it's accessible by anyone who has access to that particular SharePoint site. If you've got around to using Groups or Planner, you'll see that they actually include a OneNote in them by default. And if you use Teams, you can actually add notebooks to your teams. So there's really no shortage of places in which notebooks can be stored, and it's Office 365 is quite flexible in that way. So let's now get into some of the features, because the thing that makes OneNote great is really the fact that it is easy to use, and you can do a lot of things with it that you can't really do in any other way. So the first feature that I think for me is probably the most powerful feature is the screen clipping tool. I'm sure that most of us at some point have, we've had to grab something off the screen. Usually what I see people doing is they'll hit the print screen button, which takes this big image of the entire screen, and if you've got multiple screens, you end up with basically a really large picture of both screens, which is sometimes what you want, but more often than not it isn't. It's usually just a small section of the screen that you want. So with OneNote, you've actually got the screen clipping tool, and if you do Windows key, Shift 7, it will actually put a white opaque layer over the screen, and you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it, but my cursor becomes a crosshair. What I can do then is actually just highlight the section of the screen that I want to grab, which copies that to the clipboard. I take it back to my notebook, and I can just paste it.
Windows Shift S.
Now I don't have to paste that into OneNote. I could paste that into an email, but the point here is that the screen clipping tool is actually a part of OneNote, and that's what enables me to do that. All right, now probably the next most powerful feature that I find is really good with OneNote is to-do lists. So quite often throughout the day, regardless of what we do, most of us are working through a list of things that we need to get done before the end of the day. I find there's obviously a number of ways you can manage that, whether it's writing it down on paper or doing it digitally, but we are talking about OneNote here, so I will show you how I would get that done. So for example, today my list of things to do included webinar preparation. If I write that, just start typing that out, and then on my keyboard, if I press Control-1, it will put a box just to the left of it. The next thing I need to do is actually deliver the webinar. So now that I've got the list happening, if I just hit enter and go to the next line, it creates the next box for me. Following that, probably need to upload the recording. I might go and have lunch. Okay, so given that we're in the webinar now, the preparation's done, so I can go back up to that list item, and if I hit Control-1 again, it will put a tick in the box, just making it clear that that's been done. As I progress through the day, I can tick things off, and then I can quickly see at the end of the day where I'm at. So again, that keyboard shortcut is Control-1. Now what you can also do is you can link these tasks to Outlook, and you can put a timeline, like a due date on them. So you'll see I've clicked up the top here under the tags section, and if I click on Outlook tasks and then I set the due date to today, it'll put a little red flag, and that task will then appear in Outlook. Not sure where, but here we are, go and have lunch. There you go, so it's in my task list. If you are someone that uses Outlook tasks, that's a particularly useful feature. Clearly, I'm not someone that uses Outlook tasks. So Des, I'm not sure, I don't use Edge Browser to be completely upfront, so I don't know. But based on your question, I would say that the difference is, okay, so the Edge Clipper will actually scroll the entire page, yes, so no, obviously the OneNote screen clipping tool doesn't do that, but that does sound like a good feature. Probably need to have a look at that. All right, so the next thing that I find particularly useful is embedding videos. So someone mentioned earlier that the link took them through to the training videos. As you can see here, I've actually embedded the YouTube videos into my OneNote notebook. Now, in order to do that, it's really simple. I just click on the Insert tab, and there's a button here for online video. Simply a matter of pasting in a YouTube, Vimeo, whatever it may be. And I'll just grab one. Grab that link. Paste it in. And there you go, I've got the video preview. It'll actually play it in OneNote. Now, this is really good, for example, if you're putting training material together and you have video content that you want to add into that. It's just simply embed it into the OneNote notebook and then share it out. And there you go. So really good for, I guess, internal training, or even if you're giving documentation and things like that for people outside of the business, you can easily sort of embed the content. So another feature that I don't use all that heavily, but Ganesh is quite keen on, there's a record audio and record video feature. So, for example, if you were to go to a meeting, you might have a Surface Pro device, it's a particularly important meeting, and you know you're going to need to refer back to it later, you can actually just come up here and click on Record Audio, and it will start recording straight away. Once you've stopped, you'll notice it's put a little file here, which is the recording file, so I can play that back later. So that's particularly handy if, as I say, you are in a meeting and it's quite important and you do want to refer back to it later. Hit that record button and away you go. Okay, now one of the things that I've talked about, if you come to the other webinars, I guess one of the things that I push really hard in Office 365 is around search. So in the last webinar, we talked about Delve and how we were able to use Delve to search for content easily across the entire Office 365 ecosystem. OneNote has a similar feature in it, which allows you to search, only it's searching across the notebooks that you've got open in OneNote effectively. So if I type up here, put the cursor up here in the search box, and I type, let's type in cloud, for example, it's actually going to go through and search all of my notebooks for cloud. So I rely on this pretty heavily because as you can see on the left here, I've got so many notebooks now, I've sort of started to lose track of what's where. Search is really the thing that makes it all kind of work for me, otherwise it would just be too difficult, I think. So I can search on the page, and I can also search throughout all the notebooks. So if I search on the page, I type in cloud, it's telling me nothing's found. It says press Control E, which then searches across all of my notebooks. Now, if I wanted to search in just one notebook or one section, I can do that too. So again, very powerful feature. The other thing that I find particularly helpful about, about OneNote is, and the search in particular, is that you can actually search the text in an image. So here I've got an image of some lorem ipsum type text. And if I do want to search for that, so let's have a search for, you can see the word Magna there, it's actually found that. So if you've got a screenshot and you want to search through it, you can. Now if I wanted to, I could right click on that and I could actually select the image. Select the text from the image and then paste it all out. So sometimes if you get sent a photo of something, you need to, or an image of a screenshot, something like that, you need to get the text out. That's just a really easy way to get it out without having to retype the whole thing. So Des, can you take a photo directly from OneNote? I'm not sure what you mean by that, sorry. Do you mean take a photo which then gets stored in OneNote? Okay. Ganesh, do you want to answer that?
Right. Jess, and for the others, I'm a big fan of a particular app called Office Lens. So I've downloaded the app. I have an Android phone, so I've downloaded the app. And what you can do is you can take a picture of anything, and when you want to save it, you can save it directly to your OneNote section. Just to give an example, a couple of weeks back, I was part of a speed networking event. What I did was I just took a photo of the visiting cards, the business cards. It got directly saved to my OneNote, and like how Taz demonstrated the copying text, I was able to copy the text directly from the business card. So yeah, Office Lens would be the best way to go, and I will talk about that in detail just a little after Taz. But yeah, Office Lens is the way to go for that.
All right, thanks, Ganesh. Okay, so yeah, copying text from images, things like that. So by the way, if anyone's got any other questions, feel free to jump in, or if there's a particular feature that you want to know about that I'm not talking about, I'm happy to cover that too. But otherwise, I'll push on. So now, obviously, being an Office product, OneNote does integrate with the other Office apps as well. So what you can do with Excel, for example, if let's say we started working with some tabular data, maybe I've got I don't know, a price list that I need to sort of flesh out. So product price in stock, something like that. So we'll call it tin cans, $1 each. Now I'm just creating a table here, just using the tab key. Forth. Okay, so what I've got here is a table. Now, if I wanted to, I can just, with the cursor in that table, if I come up the top here, click on Layout, and there's a button here which says Convert to Excel Spreadsheet. Now, what that's done is taken my tabular data and it's actually turned it into an Excel spreadsheet. And if I click on Edit, it'll bring me straight into Excel, so I can actually start doing more advanced stuff. So if I wanted to sum this up, and then that change should now be reflected. So I've got an Excel spreadsheet embedded in my OneNote, which I can go in and edit, and then it will come through with those changes on the actual OneNote page itself. Now, again, very handy feature, and it just sort of illustrates the integration that goes on between the different Office products. Also, in saying that, what I can do, if I wanted to, for example, have a Word document that I wanted to put in the OneNote because I wanted other people to have a look at it. I can just grab something like that, and I can just paste it in there. I can either attach it as a file or insert as a printout. Now, if I attach as a file, I just get a little icon down there, and if I double click on it, it'll open up in Microsoft Word. Now, I can put just about any file I want in there, but obviously within reason. And if I save it, the changes get pushed back into the notebook. The other thing I can do is if I insert it as a printout, it will literally take the content and just put it into the notebook as a printout. Sort of similar to the way the Excel spreadsheet works. If I double click it, it'll take me into the document. All right. Anyone got any questions at this point? Okay, another thing that I find particularly useful is the ability to do mathematics. So we all often need to do quick sums and things like that. What we can do is basically simple arithmetic. So for example, if I wanted to know what 99 times 500 was, I literally just type 99 times 500. Then I put an equals sign at the end, hit space, and it's done the maths for me. If I wanted to add a few things up, it works it all out for me. So I find that particularly useful. It means I don't have to go in and open up the calculator app. It's just another nice little sort of convenience type of thing. Whether or not that's useful to you, I'll let you decide. The other thing that I also find useful is the cut and paste feature. So, for example, if I wanted to grab some information about Office Lens and just stick that into a notebook somewhere, I can just go and copy and paste it. It goes straight in. But what I find particularly handy about this is it actually puts the reference in down the bottom. So if I wanted to refer back, or if someone else was looking at this, they would easily be able to see where I actually sourced that content from. You might not always want that, so if you don't, you can just delete it, but it is there if you do want it. They're probably like the main features, and I'm just thinking we've probably kind of glossed over some of the basics here. So I'll just quickly go through that. So initially at the start, I said that what OneNote is essentially, it's just a digital version of a notebook. Now, on the right-hand side, you see a list of pages, and that's quite literally a page in a notebook. But up the top, we've got sections. So I've got demo, I've got training materials, and if I wanted to create a new one, I would just click on this plus button, and I would just give it a name. Let's go. Hit enter. Now I can also create section groups. So if I find I've got too many sections, I can start grouping things together, which is kind of like going down a level. So if I move that there, I've now got a group with a separate set of sections. I can do other things. I can change the colors. I can merge things together, stuff like that. All right. Okay, yep, David. So if you do want to export it, you certainly can. I often export to PDF, but as you can see here, there is a range of options. So you can export into a Word document, a PDF, or you can actually export the OneNote section itself. So if I was to export a section, it would be everything or all of the pages within that section. But if I do export as a PDF, depending on what the content looks like, sometimes it comes up nicely, sometimes it can look a little bit where did I put that? PDF. Documents. Okay, and I'll bring that up. So now you can see that content is there in the PDF. So yes, absolutely. However, I would argue that if they don't use the tool, they should be, particularly given that it's free with Windows 10. All right, so back to the section. So once we create a section, we then create a page. and we just put some content on the page. Now we can obviously create more pages. If we wanted to, we can make one page a sub-page of another page, so, which helps just to organize the information, I guess, in a way that makes sense to us. Now, once we do start building out some of the pages, we might want a link in between them. For example, I could insert a link here. There's the button. Now, what I can do is I can just link to content in any other notebook, because remembering that our notebooks are stored in the cloud, so they can be accessed from anywhere. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll link back to page 1 in the same notebook. And there it is. So if I click on that, it takes me to page 1. Just to show you again, I've got page 2 selected, click on page, takes me up to page 1. So I guess if you are going to start storing a large amount of information and you want to organize it, say you might want a table of contents, for example, you can just link through to all the different sections in that one, or pages in that OneNote, sort of making it quite an organized sort of, I guess, a manual, if you like, or whatever the case may be. So they're really the main features that we use OneNote for, and I'm sure there are others that we don't know about, but in our day-to-day work, that's what we find works particularly well. There are another thing that I haven't touched on is page templates. So you can actually click on Insert, Page Template, and there are some here that you can use, or you can create your own. But for example, if we wanted to have meeting notes, personally I don't like the look and feel of these, but they are a good starting point. Again, something you probably need to play around. Now, if you go out on the internet, you will find that there are other templates around that you can use, which some of them are quite good, year planners and things like that. So yeah, definitely go out and see what's out there. Handwritten notes. So Des, when you say handwritten notes, are you talking about using the ink feature? Okay, all right. All right, so look, if you have a Surface, for example, or a device with a touch screen, with the Surface you get the stylus pen, and on an iPad, for example, you can actually use what they call inking, I think. And I don't use it very often, but up here we've got Draw with Touch. So now I'm on a touch screen device, so what I can actually do if I was in a meeting or anywhere really and decided that I wanted to handwrite on the screen, I could do something like this. And what we can do is then click on Ink to Text. And Des, while that's happening, if you could just explain what you mean by the ability to move them around as a group. And also just add that my computer is going particularly slowly today. This normally doesn't take this long. Okay, and then what do I do? Okay. Okay, so I think what you mean is when you draw on something, and so for example, if you have a screenshot or an image and you draw on it, and then you move that image, the annotations tend not to move with it. Have I understood that? Yes. Okay. I'm just going to cancel this because it doesn't want to work. I'm going to come back to that. So for example, if we wanted to do something like this, and then okay, so we'll draw an arrow here. We'll maybe use an arrow like that. And then type. What Des is describing is that if we've now annotated the image and we move the image, the annotations don't move with it, which is particularly annoying. Now, I think what you can do is you can select all of these things and you can group them. Although, maybe you can't. And in fact, I think this might be one of the few limitations is that you actually cannot group things together. I'm not sure why. Because maybe you know something I don't. Because to me it looks like it can't be done, which yeah, it is annoying. So I haven't got an answer for that, I'm sorry. And well, if you do figure it out, please let me know, because it's something that I definitely came across early on, and I've sort of given up on it. So there you go. That's really the end of what I've got to say. Ganesh is going to have a quick chat to you now about Cloud Complete. So obviously the reason we're all here is well, the reason we give these webinars is to do with Cloud Complete. It's part of the value we add to Office 365 in that offering. So I'll let Ganesh talk to you about that.
Right. Thanks, Jess. Right. For those of you thinking, man, OneNote is brilliant, or I never knew OneNote can help me with that particular feature, all I can say is join the gang. I've been a convert for the past 2 months, and I'm just loving it. Right. Now, when it comes to how can Cloud Complete help you with OneNote and the other great features in Office 365, it's pretty simple. What we do provide is we provide training for our customers. Essentially, we identify features that will help you in your daily work life and provide 2 hours one-on-one training with our ultimate package. That's what we do with the training part of it. And apart from that, there's also the continuing education, which is what you're a part of right now. We host monthly webinars where we talk about some of the great features. So we had the last webinar was something about the Office 365 features that you should be using but aren't, where we talked in general. And from there on, we would be drilling down into features that you would want to see and some of our other customers would want to see. Apart from that, we also have continuous updates on our social media page. I'm just going to copy paste the links on the chat section.
So yeah, again, what Ganesh is getting at here is that, you know, we obviously Office 365 it's quite a ubiquitous product now. You can buy it anywhere. You can buy it from GoDaddy, you can buy it from Melbourne IT, you can buy it from your RT people. What we're trying to do here with Cloud Complete is differentiate ourselves in the market by giving you an offering that doesn't just give you the product, because if you get the product on its own, it's great. If you've got the time to go out, figure out how to use it all, fantastic. But what we found looking at the adoption reports for our existing customers, most people are not utilising anywhere near as much of it as they could be. And we believe that that's just purely due to lack of knowledge about what it can do and how that can be used in business to ultimately drive efficiency, which in turn is going to make you more profitable. So what we want to do is give these webinars. We also offer one-on-one training if you need it, so that you can actually utilize these products to their full potential and get proper ROI on the investment you're making in the product. So that's what really Cloud Complete is all about. Now, we obviously add in support to go with that, as well as a few other bits and pieces that we bundle in there just to make it a complete solution for any business who just really wants to do business or run their technology entirely in the cloud, which more or less is most businesses these days. But I'll hand it back to Ganesh to finish it off.
Right. Thanks, Jess. Right. So I've pasted the social media links on the chat window. Please go ahead and follow us over there. One of our latest update on Facebook was about this absolutely great plugin called OneTastic for OneNote. So yep, to follow us over there. The other aspect that I wanted to cover was go ahead and maybe you should start experimenting with OneNote and Office Lens. Go ahead, download them. They're available as mobile apps. See how useful it is, and we will also be sending you a recording of the webinar to you and a simple survey. In fact, OneNote was a topic that was requested by quite a few in the survey that we had from the previous webinar. So please go ahead and suggest topics that you might want us to cover in the forthcoming webinars. Finally, do have a look at the website that we had recently launched. I'm just going to paste it in the chat window. That's the Cloud Complete website, where we talk about solutions that we can provide for issues that small businesses normally face in terms of support, in terms of operating costs, in terms of security, and as Taz clearly mentioned, in terms of productivity.
Great. All right. Thanks, Ganesh, and thank you, Neil, for solving the problem of grouping there on the annotations. If anyone does have any questions, of course, just feel free to reach out. We are here. You can get us Ganesh on, I think it's ganesh@cloudcomplete.com.au. And you can reach me, tass@axiomit.com.au. And look, if there is something that you want us to cover in one of the upcoming webinars, please do let us know, because ultimately it's about giving you value and giving you knowledge that's valuable to you. And you may not know what that is, but if you do, let us know. We'll put something together. I think the next webinar will probably go in depth into Office 365 Planner. If you're not familiar with it, it's there already in Office 365. Just jump into your portal and have a look. And another thing we'll touch on soon will be Teams. So Teams is the latest addition to Office 365 that everyone's talking about. And we're keen to get in there and show you how that works and what you can do with that. So yeah, keep an eye out for the emails from Ganesh on the upcoming webinars, and we look forward to seeing you all there next time. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great day.